So welcome back. We'll quickly revise chapter 10 which cover the concepts of TDS, TCS and provisions of advance tax. Chalo. So TDS is something like whenever a payer is paying any expenses to someone who is called payee. I am paying something to the payee. The payer has a responsibility to deduct a part of that and give it to the government in the form of TDS, tax deducted at source. So what is this concept is? For payer, whatever he is paying will be in expenses, and for the receiver that will be income, and that receiver will be called as payee. Agree? So whenever a payer is paying any amount to the payee, he has to check whether the payments are covered under respective sections, which is from 192 to 195. If his payment is covered under the respective section, he has to also check what is the threshold limit and what is the percentage of TDS, and accordingly he has to deduct a part of that payment and remit it to the government. Agree? So he has to pay. After deducting TDS, whatever is remaining, that amount the payee will receive. Agree? And for this payee, after deducting TDS, the payer should remit it to the government within, normally the due date is 7th of next month, guys. 7th of next month, he has to remit it to the government. He cannot keep that amount. If he is delaying with that and all, he has to pay interest, 1% or 1.5% depending upon the case. Agree? Fine. Once this payer deducted TDS and remitted to the government, he has two more extra responsibility. That is, for payee, he has to issue certain forms, that is 12BA or form 16, 16A, 16AA, depending upon what is the payment he has made. And coming to another responsibilities, payer also has to file quarterly returns with the government or department. That is in the form 24Q, 26Q or 27Q. Agree? Normally the due date for this is that quarterly returns, 31st of next month of each quarter. Whereas for last quarter it is 31st May, because April doesn't have 31st. Sir, what about the payer? Assume if payer has not deducted TDS, or else he has deducted but not remitted to the government. In that case, for him, whatever expenses he has paid will be disallowed, guys. It will be disallowed for him. Agree? So it is covered in two different sections in PGBP chapter, that is 40A1, 40A1A. Depends on for whom we are making the payment. If you are making payment for residents, then 30% will be disallowed. If I am making any payments outside India or for a non-residents, then 100% will be disallowed in this year. Clear? Then for payee, that is for the one who has earned the income, while calculating the income, we have to consider the gross figure and not the net figure. Gross figure means the income before TDS. Clear, guys? So here we will be seeing the different sections which cover different types of expenses on which TDS has to be deducted. Clear? So we'll quickly go through this. Section 192 covers salary. The basic essential limit or threshold is the basic essential limit. So if your salary income is more than basic essential limit, then the TDS will be deducted by the employer when at the time of payment, at whatever rate is applicable for you. Then if there is any premature withdrawal of EPF, that is within 5 years if you are withdrawing, and if the amount is more than 50,000, then 10% TDS will be deducted at the time of payment. Then interest on securities like bonds, debentures and all is covered in section 193. If the bonds or debentures are 8% or 7.75% savings bonds, then the threshold limit is 10,000. If interest is paid by any public company to a resident individual or HUF, then the threshold limit is 5,000. In all other cases, there is no threshold limit. Even in that case, even if 1,000 or 100 rupees is paid, TDS has to be deducted. What is the TDS rate? 10%. When it has to be deducted? Credit at the time of credit or at the time of payment, whichever is earlier. Okay. Next, dividend. Any dividend paid by the company to the individual shareholder, threshold limit is 5,000. Only if the payment is more than 5,000, TDS will be deducted. In all other case, assume the shareholder is a company, partnership firm, then there is no threshold limit. TDS has to be deducted on the full amount at 10% when credit or payment, whichever is earlier. Then 194A, interest other than interest on securities like interest on FD, bank interest, all those things are covered. The threshold limit is 40,000 if the interest is paid by bank, cooperative society or post office. Then if the account holder is a resident senior citizen, then instead of 40,000, the threshold limit is 50,000. In all other cases, the threshold limit is 5,000. The TDS rate is 10%. When TDS has to be deducted, same story. Then 194B and BB covers casual income. So 194B, casual income other than horse race. If it is more than 10,000, 30% plus cess has to be deducted. BB is for horse race. If the amount is more than 10,000, TDS has to be deducted at 30% is the TDS rate plus 4% cess. When? At the time of payment. Then 194C, payment to contractors, C for contractors. Then if the single payment is more than 30,000 or the aggregate of payment, that is throughout the year, if it is more than 1 lakh, TDS has to be deducted at 1% if the payee is individual or HUF. 2% if the payee is any other person like company, partnership firm. When TDS, credit or payment, whichever is earlier. 194D, insurance commission. So D has some relations with insurance, guys, even because 1010D also talks about exemption of whatever amount we are getting on the expiry of the policy. Agree? So insurance commission, if it is more than 15,000, then the insurance agent whatever commission is getting, the insurance company has to deduct TDS. At what percent? If the agent is a domestic company, then 10%. If the agent is any other person, then 5% TDS. When? Credit or payment, whichever is earlier. DA is when we are getting the amount, lump sum amount. Who? The insured. Okay. So in that case, insured or any family members, then if it is not exempt, TDS has to be deducted. When it is not exempt, if it is not covered in section 1010D exemption chapter. And if the amount sum assured is more than 1 lakh, TDS has to be deducted at 5%. Then E is like payment to any non-resident sports person, sports association or entertainers. In that case, no limit. TDS has to be deducted at 20% plus 4% cess, which comes to 20.8% when at the time of credit or payment, whichever is earlier. The people like IPL players, all those people are covered here. 194E. Then EE, payment in respect of deposit under national savings schemes. If you are getting any interest on this, then if it is more than 2,500, TDS will be deducted at 10%. Then G, commission on sale of lottery ticket. G means gambling. Okay. If the amount commission is more than 15,000, 5% TDS will be deducted. Then all other commission normally is covered in 194H. Any other commission or brokerage, if the amount is more than 15,000, then the payer has to deduct TDS at 5%. Then rent, if there is any rent which I am paying to the landlord, then if it is more than 2,40,000 in a year, in a financial year, then you have to see the asset. If the asset is plant and machinery or equipment, TDS has to be deducted at 2%. If the asset is land, building or furniture, TDS has to be deducted at 10%. Okay. So when TDS has to be deducted, the points are common, so I am not mentioning it. Then 194IA, payment on transfer. This is on transfer of immovable property, that is land or building, other than agriculture land. Agriculture land is not covered. If the sale consideration is more than 50 lakh, then TDS has to be deducted at 1%. IB, payment of rent by individuals or HUF. Okay. If rent is more than 50,000 per month or part of the month, then TDS has to be deducted at 5%. And when TDS has to be deducted, this is one special case. Last month of the previous year, that is in the month of March, or if you are vacating the property before March, in that month you have to deduct. This is applicable only if the monthly rent is more than 50,000, guys. Then payment under a joint development project as referred under section 45(5)(a), that is if I have given property for any builder to build the property, then on that amount whatever they are paying, they will deduct TDS at 10%. Okay, sir. Then 194J, fees for professional service, technical services, royalty, non-compete fee, director remuneration. If it is more than 30,000 in a year, then TDS has to be deducted. But payment to director doesn't have any limit. Even if I am paying 10,000 for them, TDS has to be deducted. Sir, what is the rate of TDS? If the payee is engaged in the business of call center, or if it is a fees for technical services or royalty in the nature of consideration for sale, TDS rate is 2%. In all other case, it is 10%. Clear? Next, 194K, if I am getting any income from the units of mutual fund, specified undertaking or specified company, and if it is more than 5,000, then they will deduct TDS. Then they will deduct TDS at 10%. This is 10% not mentioned. Yeah. Then LA, 194 LA, compensation on acquisition of certain immovable property. This is acquisition. That means there is a compulsory acquisition, guys. If the payment is more than 2,50,000, then 10% plus cess has to be collected as TDS. Agree? Then LB, LC, LD talks about some non-resident payees or foreign company payee. So if any interest on infrastructure debt fund or interest from Indian company or business trust or interest on certain bonds or government securities has been earned, in that case TDS has to be deducted at 5% plus surcharge if applicable plus cess at 4%. In all this case, you can observe. Okay, so interest normally who is covered here is like foreign company or non-residents are covered. Clear? As a payee, I'm telling. Next 194M, if payment to contractor, commission or brokerage fee for professional services is paid by an individual HUF who is not covered in CHJ, who is not covered in section 194 CHJ, who is not liable for tax audit, they are covered here. If the payment is more than 50 lakh, then TDS has to be deducted at 5% on the whole amount. See guys, whenever the threshold limit exceeds, we have to deduct TDS on the entire amount, not only the amount which is in excess. Clear? Then 194N, this is one special point. If you are withdrawing cash from your account in excess of 1 crore and in some special cases 20 lakh. So when is 20 lakh? If you are not filed your return of income in the last 3 assessment year, then for you limit is 20 lakh. So if you are withdrawing more than 20 lakh, then TDS will be deducted at 1% of whatever amount you are withdrawing in excess. Okay. Then in exceeding, for example, 2% TDS will be deducted of the sum exceeding 1 crore or 20 lakh. Assume for me I am covered in normal case, for me the limit is 1 crore. So assume I am withdrawing 1 crore 20 lakhs from my bank account. So only on 20 lakh 2% TDS will be deducted, guys. This is one special case here. Whereas in all other cases, if your payment is crossing threshold limit, on the entire payment TDS will be deducted. Whereas here only the amount in excess of 1 crore, or if 20 lakh limit is applicable for you, only the amount in excess of 20 lakh TDS will be deducted at 22%. Agree? And if you are covered in this 20 lakh criteria and if you are withdrawing more than 1 crore, then for you TDS rate is 5%. Okay. 194O is completely new section which is applicable, including date you have to remember. So if any payment is made by a e-commerce operator to a e-commerce participant in excess of 5 lakh, in that case 1% TDS has to be deducted on the entire amount. Agree? And this 5 lakh limit is applicable only for individual HUF, whereas for all other, in all other cases there is no limit, guys. In, for example, if a e-commerce participant is a company, partnership firm and all, whatever amount you are paying on that, deduct TDS at 1%. Clear? And 195 covers other payments to non-resident, and in that case you have to deduct TDS at whatever rate has been given in Finance Act or the rate which is given as per double taxation agreement, whichever is beneficial for the assessee. Clear? So this is all about TDS. Next, tax collected at source. I have not included everything in detail here, so only the concept I have included here. Tax collection at source, as the same says, it has to be collected from the seller of some goods or services from the buyer. The seller will collect whatever sale consideration is there, he will collect it. Over and above that, he has to collect something called as TCS. So TCS also has a different rates like 0.5%, 0.1%, 1%, 2%, 5%, like that. Different rates are there. Agree? So from whom it will be collected? Seller will collect it from the buyer. Agree? When he will collect it? At the time of debiting the amount of the account buyer, or at the time of collecting the payment, whichever is earlier. I repeat, at the time of debiting the account of the buyer or at the time of collecting the amount, whichever is earlier, I have to collect TCS. Sir, if the buyer is not giving his PAN, then TCS has to be collected at twice the rate whatever is applicable, or 10%, whichever is higher. I repeat, if the TCS whatever buyer, if he is not giving his PAN, then TCS has to be collected at twice the rate or 10%, whichever is higher. And this provision is not applicable for non-resident who doesn't have any permanent establishment in India. So there are different cases where TCS has to be collected, like if there is any sale of tendu leaves, timber, motor vehicles, all those cases. So you guys can just go through that in the material. Then advance payment of tax. Any tax paid before the end of the financial year is called advance tax. So those persons whose tax liability or advance tax liability is 10,000 or more has to pay the advance tax in 4 installment mandatorily. But for few there are certain exception given, that is, if a resident senior citizen, if he doesn't have any business income or professional income, then he need not pay advance tax, even though if his advance tax liability is more than 10,000. Agree? Now advance tax liability has to be paid in 4 installment quarterly, that is, each quarter will end on a particular month. So take 15th of the last month of each quarter, that is the due date for each quarter. So what is the amount which has to be paid is first installment up to 15%, second installment up to 45%, And when you are paying second, third and fourth installment, the percentages are cumulative, guys. So whatever amount you already paid in previous installments, we have to reduce that. And only whatever balance amount will come, we will pay it as an installment amount. Clear? Then what if the assessee is covered under section 44 AD or 44 ADA, presumptive people? For them, they can pay advance tax only in one installment, that is on or before 15th March. For in both the cases, even though the due date to pay last installment is 15th March, you can pay advance tax even till 31st March. Any tax paid till 31st March also will be considered as advance tax. Sir, what if I have not paid advance tax? So first we will see what is the differences in total. So assume advance tax you have paid 1 lakh, but your actual tax liability in the assessment year, you got to know that your actual tax liability is 1,50,000. So on that 50,000 difference, interest will be charged at 1% per month or part of the month from 1st April of the assessment year till the date you computed your income. Agree? And if this difference or shortfall is less than 10%, means there is no interest charge. There is no interest charge. Clear? And while calculating your actual tax liability, we have to reduce. If any tax is already paid by you, we have to reduce it. Clear? And one more interest is there, that is 234C. 234C is talking about interest if you have made a short payment in installment. 234B was short payment in total and it starts from 1st April. And 234C is if you have made any short payment in installment wise. Agree? So if you have made any short payment in installment, for the first 3 installment, they will charge interest at 1% per month for 3 months for the short payment. Whereas for the last installment, they charge only 1 month interest, 1% for 1 month. Because from 1st April of assessment year, 234C will take over. 234C will take over. So 234B will end on 31st March. Clear, guys? And in case of first installment and second installment, even though you are liable to pay 15% and 45% of your advance tax liability, but if you have paid up to 12% in first installment and up to 36% in second installment, no interest will be charged for you under section 234C. That 3% and 9% difference is acceptable because we know that while you are paying first and second installment, you may not be having a clear idea about your income and tax liability. Clear? And interest under section 234C will not be charged if there is any underestimation of income due to 4 incomes. So what are those? Casual income, capital gains, then if there is any new business income or professional income or dividend income. But you should make sure that once you get this income, when you are paying the next installment, you have to pay on that also, including that. Clear? And for 44 AD and 44 ADA people, the interest will be charged under section 234C only for 1 month at 1%. Clear? Self-assessment tax. Sir, what is self-assessment tax? See, advance tax we have seen, TDS we have seen. Other than this, if I have paid any tax before filing the return of income, that tax will be called self-assessment tax. I myself calculate my income, I myself calculate my tax liability and pay that before I file my return of income, which is called a self-assessment tax. And refund. So refund means if I have paid any extra amount to the government or department, they will refund it for me. Assume my tax liability is only 1 lakh, but I already paid an advance tax of 1,50,000, or else assume on my income TDS is already deducted 1,50,000. In that case, whatever extra amount I have already paid or deducted from my income will be refunded back to me. On this, if I am eligible, then I will get 0.5% interest also. I also given various cases where refund will be getting, that is if TDS has been deducted more, or if I have paid more advance tax, or else if I am eligible for any double taxation relief and all, I can get a refund. And if the refund is due to TDS, TCS or advance tax, then I will be eligible for 0.5% interest per month from 1st April of the assessment year till the date of grant of refund. If I am eligible for refund for any other reasons, then I will be getting the interest at 0.5% from the date of payment of tax till the date of grant of refund. And if there is any delay in refund due to my mistake, that is assessee's mistake, there won't be any interest given for you. Clear? Sure.